Welcome to the Scoop World Order. Happy Tuesday. Hope you guys had a great day today. Another commitment coming tomorrow. We are taking, it looks like a third running back. We've got a linebacker. We've got a lot of guys in the fold that could be jumping in the mix over the next month or so. Plus, we've got the season to pan out. I know Ohio State likes to always fish for a couple of late gems that can come through if they have good senior seasons. So we're going to break all of that down. Big time moves for these guys, even though a lot of these coaches are out right now. A lot of fish on the line for Larry Johnson, James Laurinaitis, some of these guys. So we're going to get into all that, and Nevadabuck is back. So as always, we appreciate you guys. If you guys enjoy this content, please leave us a like, click subscribe, also click that little alert bell. Again, we appreciate you guys. Yesterday, we had one of our Scoop Ultra chats. We're going to do this much more frequently, about every 2 weeks or so. We turned it on yesterday. All of our Scoop Ultra members were able to ask infinite questions, and it was great. We had a fantastic time. We appreciate all you guys that participated. Really nice chat yesterday. So if you guys would like to help patronize, pay it forward, consider subscribing to Scoop Ultra or to BuckeyeScoop.com. BuckeyeScoop.com is our home base where we're at 24 hours a day. It's our website. If you guys love this chat and you love this podcast, it is it's a must-have. It's a concierge service essentially for Ohio State football, and we'd love to have you guys on there. We're on there 24 hours a day, and our site is absolutely going crazy right now with inside information on the team. With recruiting information. So if you guys really want to know what's going on inside of Ohio State football, inside the Woody Hayes Center, join BuckeyeScoop.com. With that being said, as always, I'm going to bring in my good friend Nevadabuck. Nevada, where to start? We got Justin Hill, we got Raleigh Pettijohn, we've got DBs, we've got linebackers, we've got guys all over the board. David Sanders Jr. I'll let you pick. I know that you've got a bunch of fresh information that we were just talking about in the pre-show. Where would you like to start, my friend?
Well, I guess we'll start chronologically. Let's start with the big in-state commitment coming from Justin Hill. All signs are pointing to Ohio State. Could he go elsewhere? Sure. we've seen weirder things happen. Will he go somewhere else? I really don't think so. Ohio State really doesn't think so. The Ohio State Collective really doesn't think so. So I think we've got this one. I think Ohio State's set to get another big commitment in Wynwood's linebacker edge, Justin Hill, and I'm excited about it. I'm excited about every commitment, but this would be again another premier in-state defensive player going to Ohio State. A ridiculous run of defensive players going to the Buckeyes. You hate losing any in-state kids, but you always love it when you get them. So this would be a good one. So I don't want to just gloss. I don't want to. I say we talk about this one and then we move on to the next topic because I don't. I want to savor every potential commitment, every potential kid, and this is a kid that I've liked for a long time. I know Ohio State's liked for a long time. And I think he's going to be a big timer. And I think the Buckeyes are going to get him. And I hope that's not the kiss of death in the 2024 recruiting world. But I feel reasonably good about where we sit with Justin Hill.
The kiss of death. I mean, because again, I like this kid a lot. I think any kid, if it's down to us in SC, any kid that goes SC in modern times is crazy for defense because they were so just horrifically bad last year. They gutted the staff. It's an all new crew now, and I think that when you look at what you potentially could be working with Johnson and what he's done with Nick Bosa. Again, we got his film rolling right now for those of you that are on YouTube channel. I love his explosion. I love his length. I don't think we can take in-state recruits for granted with potentially Trey McNutt going to Oregon, Dorian Brew going to Oregon as well. So I think that you got to win these guys, and this is a kid that's he's very twitched up. He's very good. He fills a big need. I mean, you can't take enough edge rushers on your roster, and that's what he is. And we've had a lot of success at Winton Woods. Jermaine Matthews Jr. obviously was fantastic. Mayan Williams, good player. So I think that this is going to be a good add for the program. Again, when you're recruiting against SC and the SEC schools, to land a guy, and he's an in-state guy, you can't lose that one. It doesn't matter who you are as a coach. And with LJ, I mean LJ, as much as people wanted to tar and feather him last year and say he was done and he stunk and he took all defensive tackles and no DNs or whatever. Like he's a guy that, I mean, he seems to keep closing on all these kids that he really wants. So, short of adding Jakeem Stewart to this crew, this is going to be a 4 or 5 person class that's going to be really really talented and a lot of twitch and a lot of speed and a lot of pass rush ability. So I love this kid. I love watching his tape. Especially with they show him doing things other than rushing the passer, just being explosive on offense as well. He's a difference maker. Really excited about him. He'll be a Buckeye tomorrow, and I think it's going to be. And again, if unless something insane happens tomorrow, he's going to be a Buckeye, and I love watching his film. But he is a twitchy, explosive dude, and this is a year where it's nice to have a couple guys like this in our class, and a couple guys that are supreme athletes in the state of Ohio that are going to be Buckeyes. And again, I always feel like these guys. I've said it 100 times, and you guys can quote me on it, but I always feel like a kid like this, if he was in a southern state like Georgia or Florida, would probably add another star to his name, probably 4.5 stars, a little bit higher rated. But when you're in Ohio, you don't get as much visibility, you don't get as much hype, so you don't get as many offers as a lot of these other kids do. This kid's got offers from basically everybody, but I think that he's got a talent to be a top 5 DN in the country. And you watch the tape and you watch the explosion and the playmaking ability, and I'm really excited about him. Any other feedback, Nevada, before we can get into some less sure prospects so that we can have people get a little bit more excited about some of these guys?
Well, I obviously, as you're well aware, I have really good USC contacts, specifically with USC's NIL thing, and I asked them about Justin Hill, and they told me they don't think they're getting Justin Hill. So if it's down to Ohio State and USC, they don't think they're getting Justin Hill.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd say that's a pretty good indicator that Ohio State's now. I did take a trip to Oregon. Could be, that would be the Oregon. But can you imagine if Oregon took Brew and McNutt and Justin Hill? I mean, talk about shots fired in the Big Ten. That'd be something else. And could something like that happen? Hey, you never, the bag's big enough and they're doing it, maybe. But I don't think Ohio State feels really good about this one. And we're all going to find out tomorrow. That's a big time commitment coming from a guy that Ohio State thinks they're getting, we think they're getting, and hopefully they are landing because, I like you said, he's twitched up. He's a guy that can get after the pass rusher, and in today's game, that is the game. Is getting after the pass rusher, defending the pass, and this guy can do a little bit of all of that.
I totally agree. I don't know. Do you want to get into the Riley Pettijohn saga next? He's a kid that I know Ohio State feels really good about. I definitely don't feel like they're. There's some people that say, "Oh, he's SC or whatever," but they don't feel like they're out of it on yet. And I think he's a guy that's got a. He's an explosive cat. I'm gonna toss this film up here real quick. Nevada, it seems like it's an SC for Riley Pettijohn as well. Over Texas A&M and Texas, which is kind of crazy given that he's from Texas and he's considering SC and Ohio State. But what are your thoughts on Riley Pettijohn? I love this kid. I know that he's the number 1 linebacker on Ohio State's board. How you feeling on Riley Pettijohn?
Well, that's part 2 of the USC collective thing. Whereas on Hill, they're like, no, we're not getting him. On Riley Pettijohn, they're not sure. They're not sure. Now that's not a no, but they're not sure they're getting that. They're not. That's not a hey Nevada. Yeah, we got him. You'll see. He's in the bag. So I can tell you that from the top guy at USC's NIL collective, they're not sure. So I'm kind of I'm going to continue to dig for information on that. But I think on Pettijohn, this one's kind of swung wildly. Now, generally, when things swing wildly in the recruiting world, that doesn't mean they're actually swinging wildly. People could just be getting different information and reacting to it. But from USC's perspective, he's not in the barn. So
No.
Don't give up hope. Keep positive vibes. We'll continue to dig for updates. But the latest from USC's NIL collective, they are not 100% sure on Riley Pettijohn.
Well, and I hate to say this to people because I know people are just like, oh, Kirk, you're a homer, played at Ohio State, 2 degrees from Ohio State, All-American, all this other stuff. And I'm like, well, because someone commits, tomorrow or Saturday or whatever it be, whether it's Justin Hill, Riley Pettijohn, I'm like, you got to keep recruiting these guys. Because again, a kid might be like, well, man, I loved that SC visit and I love that Los Angeles sunshine, or I loved Ohio State or whatever. But, teams have to perform in season. And I know that people are like, oh, Kirk, it doesn't matter if teams win or lose in season because once they commit, whatever. But it's like, say Riley Pettijohn goes Tackett Curtis on us. And Tackett was a kid that I loved, knew his high school coach, knew his uncle very well. I think he's a really good player. But he goes to SC instead of, Ohio State, where he should have went. And after a year, they give up 80 million points. They fire Alex Grinch, who recruited him. They fire that entire staff that recruited him. And he hits the portal and he goes to Wisconsin. So, I mean, I think that a kid that picks SC right now to play defense, and we said this yesterday in Nevada when we talked for, the 80 hours a day that we talk, I was like, I just don't know how in a good conscience, like if I was a father, if my kid was Riley Pettijohn or some sort of that type of ability type kid, how could you ever send your kid to SC given how poor they were on defense? Because they're not going to get you in the right situations. I don't know how well they can coach. I know that they've got an all new staff. So again, you guys don't have to school me on the fact that they fired everybody. But, Lincoln Riley, when he showed up, he had a blank check to bring whoever he wanted. And he hired Alex Grinch, who was atrocious at Ohio State, and he's atrocious everywhere else he's been. And, so there's no guarantee that he got this new hire, right? As opposed to if you come to Ohio State, well, we're the number 2 defense in the country last year, and we're probably going to be better this year. And if you play, when he turns on his Xbox and plays, NCAA 25, Ohio State's got the number 1 defense on the entire video game because, again, Jim Knowles is a wizard, and James Laurinaitis is, I think, the best, young coaching prospect in the country. So, I don't know. I get why kids commit. And again, I'm the guy that if this was my son, I'd say, son, you're going to pick a school before August, before we start 2 days, before we start the season. Because, if you talk to these coaches and look them in the eye, hey, coach, my kid's committing. And again, a lot of these guys, they're not ultra ethical or whatever. But if you say, hey, coach, we're going to commit to you in August, if my son gets hurt in 2 days, blows his ACL, like the varsity blues injury where, the kid, Johnny Moxley back there, blows his knee out. He's supposed to go to Florida State, and they said, oh, he blew his knee out. He's not allowed to go to Florida State anymore. He lost a scholarship. In reality, any kid that has a debilitating injury will get a scholarship for his school at a minimum if he could, for some reason, have some sort of injury or he can never play football again. So I get why a lot of these big time kids commit early, commit in August, because if you have something in camp or in your regular season, you still have your school paid for. So I think any kid that doesn't commit before their season. So and again, I say this as a guy who did commit till December. I played through my whole season and got through it and didn't tear my ACL or anything. But I think that it's kind of playing with fire. And again, recruiting 20 years ago was much different than it is now. But I think that these guys, committing doesn't mean that it's going to work out right. And again, I always point to Caleb Downs, who we did, I think, 20 straight podcasts on Caleb Downs coming to Ohio State last year, because I was just like, if I'm his dad is an NFL star running back, 10 years in the NFL. And I see that you're going from Nick Saban coaching you to the Washington coaching staff coaching you, and Washington gave up 300 yards on the ground to Michigan. There's no way I'm leaving my son in that defense. There's just no chance. And you go to Ohio State and you've got, well, this is a really good defense, really good pass rush, a lot of really good young players. Like, my kid can flourish in that. He's not going to be put in bad situations. And I think that that's the thing with Riley Pettijohn. I'm like, look, it might be beautiful and wonderful to go to Los Angeles and see the Song Girls and go on a visit. And, it's a beautiful part of the world. But at the same token, you still got to go play football. And they were so bad on defense last year that they were impossible to watch. And I think that, if I'm Riley, I'm looking at it. I mean, if I was Riley Pettijohn, I'd be on Instagram reaching out to Tackett Curtis and saying, hey, what did you think of it? I know it's an all new staff, but was it all it was cracked up to be? Because you could have gone to Ohio State and you'd be in the 2 deep this year. And instead you're, at Wisconsin now, and you were atrocious last year. That's just my thoughts, Nevada. Again, I know you evaluate some of the long game with this stuff, but I really love everything about Riley Pettijohn. I know he's the number 1 linebacker on our board. I feel good about him coming to Ohio State. Don't feel great. But if he doesn't, I know that we're not going to stop calling him and recruiting him. And, again, the thing about when you get a kid to commit this early, like SC could or we could or whatever, you still got to go out and play great defense, and you still got to go out and show how you'll feature them. And this is just like a soft commitment at this point. And I think these kids are all still attainable, just because if a team falls on its face and they stink and their defense is 120th in the country, then I think that I know that kids will reconsider. So it's just my thought. Nevada, any thoughts? Anything else to add on Riley Pettijohn? And we'll start digging into some super chats.
Well, I'll just say it. I think any offensive player that goes to USC, I absolutely completely understand, because I think a lot of Lincoln Riley as an offensive mind. He may not be a great head coach. He may not be a great administrator. He's certainly not demonstrated a proficiency defensively, but offensively, man, they're very, very good, and I respect that. Having said that, any defensive player that goes to USC, I really have to question. I just have to question it. I do not understand. We've talked about it many times about how when you're an elite football player, you have the opportunity to create generational wealth for you, for your family, for people that kind of come after you, and are you going to really take a chance on that on a defensive scheme that's not working? And USC is the definition of not working. They do not know what they're doing defensively, and will they figure it out this year? Maybe. I don't know. But who in their right mind would commit to playing in a system like that, where you're giving up 50 points a game and 600 yards of offense? It makes absolutely no sense to me. It would be a real big red flag for me if a kid did that. So I think these things have a way of working themselves out. I've always felt good about Pettijohn to Ohio State. I know Ohio State loves him as a player. We'll see if it works out. But I think that whatever happens, it'll work out the way it's supposed to, and Ohio State will be fine either way. But I found it interesting, like I said, as I was digging, because in the last 24, 48 hours, I wasn't sure about the signs Ohio State was kind of giving off about it. I wasn't sure about where Ohio State was standing. But I'm telling you, USC does not feel like they have this one on lockdown, and that's at least an indicator that people should keep hope alive through the 6th of July, which I believe is Commitment Day.
Yeah, and if there's one thing that you guys should have learned over the last, you could say 10 months, it's not really 12 months, is even if we don't get a kid, even if something goes wrong and we don't get Caleb Downs, or we lose Dylan Raiola and we end up getting Julian saying, with the portal, there's a lot of these kids that'll go somewhere for 4 or 5 months and they'll bail because they don't like it. They don't like where they're at. They're put in bad situations. Again, Tackett Curtis was a classic because I really liked Tackett. I knew a lot of his close confidants and they loved Ohio State. They wanted to go Ohio State, but he went to SC. He was enamored by, the old Trojan lifestyle, and we're going to bring it back, and we're going to be dynamic on defense. And he went out there and played a lot. He was like a quasi starter, and they gave up 8 million points, and they fired his coordinator that brought him in, Alex Grinch, and I don't know. It was really bad, And with Tackett, I think that it's I don't know how a kid could you could send a superstar linebacker who's, again, a lot like. He's not quite as athletic as Riley. Riley's a 10-7, 100-meter dash guy. He's elite athleticism, but Tackett could fly, and he had great film, and I know Jim Knowles really wanted him, and he made a bad decision, and we didn't really have we kind of went after him a little bit when he hit the portal, but we didn't really have room at the end for him at that point, so he ended up going to Wisconsin, and I'm sure we'll see him on the schedule when we see Fick and the guys, but like I said, I like this kid. Again, I know Nevada's NIL contacted SC, and he is as legit could ever be, and he is a monster. So that gives me a little bit of excitement about what's going on. But like I said, when these kids commit places, the teams I think still need to cash in, because this kid doesn't have any idea how good SC's defense is going to be. They assembled a staff that had obviously some credentials, but they got to go perform this year. They got to go say, okay, this is what you're going to be. This is how we're going to get you the league. Because if you can't develop this kid and put him in the league, then there's a good chance you're going to lose him, even if he commits or whatever. And I think that that's something that hurts our safeties coach, Matt Greene, he's like, he doesn't really have anything that he's put on paper. When we lose some of these DBs, and when we lose, McNutt and Dorian Brew, who's a corner, who I think will end up being a safety, like he doesn't have a ton of when he's recruiting these guys, like who are the guys you've put into the league, who are the guys that you've coached at Ohio State, like he doesn't have anybody. So I think he has to go out and really perform this year, similar to Jim Knowles 2 years ago when he came in and people questioned his system and his system turned out to be excellent. But I think that when you're that new car smell coach, that new car coordinator, it can be really tough, because you're recruiting kids and people are excited about you because of what you did at a lesser school. But if you go out at SC and stink it up, then all of a sudden, I think a lot of those warts can be revealed, and I think a lot of those guys aren't going to be quite as excited. And frankly, I think a lot of those guys could decommit. I mean, SC has lost a ton of commitments over the last 2 weeks. So, if I'm Riley Pettijohn, I'm just kind of why is everybody leaving? Like, why am I walking into a burning building right now and committing when everybody else is running out? And I'm talking like high 4-star and 5-star type kids are decommitting and flipping right now from there. So I think it'll be very interesting. Nevada, any final thoughts? And we will hit up our super chats.
No, just I just do want to mention third running back potentially in the class after the Jordan Davison kind of this cooling, whatever you want to call it. But they've got a guy coming in July 29th out of Chattanooga, Shakai Mills-Knight. So I think Ohio State is bound and determined to bring a third running back into this class. I know that's how they had told Bo Jackson that it was going to be a 3 running back class. So I think that's what they're trying to do. But Shakai Mills-Knight might be that guy. It sounds like a business trip, and he could be a guy, but certainly a name to keep an eye on, because I think that might be something that gets done.
What are your thoughts on a 3 running back class? Because we've never done that before, so it's going to be very interesting to see kind of how that shakes out. I mean, again, I think that when you do that, it's almost like it's an extended tryout to see how these guys do from August to December, just knowing that you're going to lose one of them for sure. But like 3 running backs, that's a lot. It's kind of like when you take 2 quarterbacks, one's going to leave 99% of the time. But is 3 running backs too much, or is this just the new normal in the era of the transfer portal and roster management and being able to make, again, something that nobody talks enough about, and something that, you nailed early on, is that you really can have infinite scholarships now because of the way you can pay for a walk-on to go to school legally. Lorenzo Salles Jr. was a kid that was basically like an 86 scholarship. He was a walk-on, but they paid for there was no difference in designation between him being a walk-on and a scholarship guy, because a collective can pay for all the school board, room board, tuition, like everything. So he never sees a dime of it, and that's the way that you could grow the roster to 90, 95 guys legally. Which again, that's probably the biggest advantage that the haves can figure out. Is like, hey, we can offer a scholarship to this kid and maybe give him some NIL money to say, hey, you know what? We're going to offer you being a preferred walk-on, which again, now a preferred walk-on means, hey, we'll pay for your school. So, if Ohio State would have came to me my senior year and said, Kirk, we don't have a scholarship for you, but we'll let you be a preferred walk-on where everything will be the same, except you'll be called a walk-on. Plus we'll give you $100,000 for taking that deal. I'd be like, sign me up, call me a walk-on. I don't care. So I was like, so I don't have to see anything. I've got the same guarantees. I get to see everything. Yep, but we're gonna have to call you a walk-on. You're gonna have to be a walk-on, but everything else is square. I'd be like, dude, I'll be a walk-on all day if you guys are gonna pay me a little bit of scratch to be a walk-on, because that's what the big schools like Ohio State are doing now. So, what are your thoughts on that? Because again, I think that's a reason why you can take a third running back is with that potential kind of super walk-on tag that I'll call it. Where like I said, Lorenzo Salles Jr. and some of these guys that are they're guys that they're kind of on the fence about getting a scholarship to, but then all of a sudden, when you could have, the foundation pay for their school and their tuition or 1870 or whoever, it changes the math substantially. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think the thing that we didn't talk about is just the new reality of the 16-17 game schedule. And I think that's where the thing that we're having trouble getting our minds wrapped around is that, we've played, 12, 13 game schedules and been down to our fourth and fifth running back. So next year you're literally in a situation where you've got two running backs next year. James Peoples and Sam Dixon Williams or whatever. I mean, that's it. That's your running backs. So you better bring in three, just to have bodies. That's a position. It's the most often injured position on the field. It's a position that ends up every carry on the ground with two or three guys that weigh 300 pounds laying on top of you. And I think it's an absolute necessity. So I think we've got to modify our thinking about this, given the length of the season. The season's never been longer. We've had Ohio State national champions, and we look at the wall of Ohio State champions that won by going 10-0 or 9-1 or 11-0, whatever. And now, I mean, you're going to have to play 16 or 17 games, and the last 6 are going to all be against ranked opponents. So you better have bodies. I think 3 is going to, 3 with 5 active running backs in your room. You're going to need to have at least 2 quarterbacks, probably 3. And I think the game of college football has changed. Doesn't mean it's worse, but it's changed, and I think our thinking is going to have to change. But I think 3 running backs is right, given the realities of football in 2024.
I think you're spot on. I think that again with the transition, I think that it's like the 49ers back in the day sifting through the gold, in California, where they've got the little thing and they're panning around and like, well, which one of these 3 guys which one is the guy and which one is the backup guy, and then who's the third guy that we can portal out? Because that's the thing is, like, when the Nevada saying that I'm going to put on a T-shirt at our next drop, a chip and a chair. It's like, when you take 3 running backs and they show up in January, which is what most of these kids will do, they go through winter conditioning, they go through stuff with Coach Mick, they get to spring ball, so you can see how they work, how they grind, how they how they can learn the playbook, how they act in game situations, in the pass game, pass blocking, whatever. And and from there, like, there's always natural separation at running back. There's guys that can do it, that are excellent at it, and there's guys that maybe aren't quite as good. They're not up to Ohio State stuff, and they can go elsewhere. So I think that that's going to be something really important for Carlos Loughlin and Chip Kelly and Ryan Day to figure out. Mickey Marotti. If you take 3, like, you're probably going to keep 2, and one will be gone within a year. There's like almost no doubt, because you'll figure out that he's the third guy. And as much as you want this to be like utopia and everybody gets the same reps, like, at some point in spring ball or in camp, like, guys will get less reps than other guys. And if guys really step up and are fantastic, then eventually they could supplant older guys and become the dude. I mean, Bo Jackson could be in tandem with James Peoples next year as our 1-2 running back, and I mean, that could force out Sam Williams-Dixon, or vice versa. If Sam Williams-Dixon becomes the guy and James Peoples has to leave, like, whatever. And then the younger guys. So I think it's fascinating, and I think that in the portal era, as much as we like to talk about a pair in the spirit, it's almost like you have to take an extra guy just to try him out and audition him. And that's the benefit of the super walk-on, is like, you can take another guy and, hey, you're a walk-on for a year, and we'll see how you do and see if you develop. And if you're good, we'll keep you and you'll be a full scholarship, or you can head to Kentucky or Pitt or whatever. So I'm really, really excited about it. Got a couple of super chats, so appreciate you guys as always. Oh God, here we go. Nevada, you're back. So of course we got haikus for Nevada. I see Buckeye. Thanks for being an ultra member. Thank you for writing a haiku for us. I appreciate that. Haiku for Nevada. Maize and Blue did Spy, Harbaugh, Connor, and the boys wait for them to fry. So it's 575. So the hard part about this is, like, when it's written out on our chat, it's supposed to be 5 syllables. So Maize and Blue did Spy. So there's 5. Harbaugh, Connor, and the boys. So there's 7. And then wait for them to fry. So there's 5. So that's how it's correctly done. I'm sure that he wrote it out correctly, but when you're reading it on a chat, the paragraphs don't mesh the way that they're supposed to for a haiku. So again, let me try this again. Maize and Blue did Spy. There's 5. Harbaugh, Connor, and the boys, 7. Wait for them to fry. Nevada, we have people super chatting as haikus now, so we have reached the pinnacle of civilization. This is literally like the very end game of Civilization 5, where you get the giant death robot walking around and shooting the barbarians on North America or on Africa or whatever. So this is where we're at now. This is like next to the giant death robot and the oil tankers and the spaceship to go to Alpha Centauri on Civ 5. This is where we're at now. We have people sending us haikus, and I have to make sure that I count the syllables correctly. But what are your thoughts on that? Because that is fantastic, SC Buckeye. Again, this is why I love this show, because the super chats you guys send are incredible, and they're so hilarious. So thank you for that. And this is our first official haiku, I believe. But your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, this is a bougie show. I mean, like if you're like wondering, like, hey, what can I get from this show that I can't get somewhere else? Man, this is high end. This is definitely S tier type of stuff. But when you're getting haiku, and I actually kind of understood that one. So that's one of the first haikus that I've actually understood, and I think it kind of made sense. I do wish that they would rhyme. Can haikus rhyme? Or are they not supposed to rhyme? Can they rhyme?
I think so. I think that, but again, I don't want to be wrong on that, because I don't want like a samurai to show up in my head or show up in my dreams and slice my head off. Because Kirk, you said that a Japanese a dynasty, a haiku can it rhyme? I would think so. I mean, if it rhymes, it'll land us Riley Pettijohn, then I hope it rhymes.
Let's go.
I'm just saying, like, that's the thing, is like I don't know if it has to rhyme or if it can rhyme, or if you get more points with with the samurai overlords if it doesn't rhyme. So anybody that's an expert on Japanese culture, please let me know.
No, but I'd like when I want a 575 haiku. I want it to make sense. I want it to rhyme, and I want it to and be topical on Ohio State. And if we get one of those before the end of the night, I believe we'll be over 31,000 members on YouTube, and we'll get Riley Pettijohn. So we're offering both of those things. That if we can get any of that, I want a rhyming haiku before the end of the show.
Well, I will say that and again, this is full disclosure, I've won more games of Civilization with Japan than anyone probably on this earth on Civilization Revolution. So I like them because they've got red as their color, and they get extra food from the ocean. So again, I'm a big Japan guy. So on Civ, that's my squad. So again, if you guys can let me know. Yeah, but I mean, I know that China's good too, and Russian. So
I'm Korea, because they've got that science advantage.
They got the huge really science bonus. Yeah. The one that I play on my phone, Civilization Revolution. Japan, when you build a city next to the water, you get like a free harbor, so you get food at every water square. So your technology is always crazy high. So and plus their colors are red, so it looks like Ohio State. So big fan. So please let me know about those haikus. And again, Nevada, did you watch The Last Samurai on FX?
You mean Age of Samurai or The Last Samurai? The Last Samurai was the movie with Tom Cruise.
No, there was a samurai or show that was just on FX like this in the last 6 months.
Yeah, I haven't. No, I wanted to do that. I have not. I watched Age of Samurai on Netflix, which was like a documentary thing. But this was like
okay. So it's called Shogun. Excuse me, like Shogun Hua. Except it's called Shogun, but it is incredible. Like, it's something that should have been on HBO and totally graphic, but it's pretty graphic on FX. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I was like, I can't believe this is on cable TV, but it was fire. I mean, it's it's not Thrones or Sopranos, but it's probably like one notch down from that, but really, really good show. So shout out to the Shoguns, the Scoop Shoguns. That might be another t-shirt that we come up with. So let's dig into. Oh my God, Kate Weston, I appreciate you. I'm gonna get to that super chat. He says they're not supposed to rhyme, allegedly. So again, you guys super chatting your haikus. We're gonna let the dream keep rolling, Kate, until we get another super chat. But I will put you up next. Nevada Cordero Jackson, thank you for the 5. Appreciate you, my friend. 6 to 10 Buckeyes will go in the first to early second round in the next draft. Would be 11, but Downs has 1 more year. Well, yeah, and JJ has 2 more years. So, yeah, there was a very interesting mock draft that Matt Miller put out from ESPN. Matt Miller's a guy that I've known for a long time, and it was funny when we were getting to play the University of Alabama in the Sugar Bowl. I remember I was texting Matt Miller, or it might have been tweeting or direct message, whatever. But he's a guy that he's starting off in the draft thing, and he'd been doing it for a while. And he had a really good site called NFLDraftScout.com that was by far the best NFL, most accurate mock drafts. And I love mock drafts and that kind of thing. And I told him, I was like, look out for a guy named Ezekiel Elliott. And Matt could vouch for this. I said, look, I think Ezekiel Elliott is going to be the next Marshall Faulk, which is gaudy because Marshall Faulk's a first ballot Hall of Fame running back, Super Bowl winner. But when Zeke was a sophomore, I was like, that's what he is. He can run. And again, I know that's people say that's lazy because he's from St. Louis or whatever, but with his speed, his power, his ability to catch the ball, pass, block, I was like, he's the next Marshall Faulk. And Zeke loved Marshall Faulk too because he was a St. Louis kid. But he looked at him, and then Zeke made me look great because he ran for 8 million yards against Alabama, and obviously the game against Oregon he was sensational. So I've always liked Matt, but check his mock draft out on ESPN.com. He's got JT going in the first round in the 20s. He has Tyreek going, I think, like 24. I think JT might have been going 22. He thought about putting Denzel Burke at 32 to the Chiefs, but he didn't. But there's a lot of Buckeye flavor. He actually had Quinshon Judkins going like 27, I believe, to the Dallas Cowboys, which would be sensational, obviously, for Quinshon. But yeah, Nevada, what do you think? 6 to 10 of the first 60 picks being Buckeyes? I mean, 10 might be a little rich, but I could definitely see 6 to 8. But what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are that depresses me to think about that because I've thought about that in terms of how, I mean, it's going to be one of those bittersweet moments when, yeah, we're not going to pull the Michigan thing where we get 3 guys taken in round 7 or whatever the heck it is, and Harbaugh keeps trading up picks to take Michigan players so he can pad the stats about the number of guys taken, which is exactly what happened, which is so cringy that I can't even tell you. But no, we're going to have high quality guys going all over the draft, and frankly, it's going to make me sad because I'm an Ohio State fan. I obviously I root for guys when they go on, but we are losing a lot of talent next year, and I have no doubt that we'll lose 6 to 10 guys in the first 3 rounds, and that it's going to be an Ohio State bonanza for sure because 2024 is going to be a banner year for Ohio State football, and enjoy every single down because it's going to be over way too soon.
I mean, do we need to go have a moment of silence for Ohio State football because I was like, I get, trust me, the stakes are high this year. Like I'm not going to lie and act like this isn't the year that Ryan needs to cash it in, but he does. I mean, I think he knows that, and this is a year where if you don't win the national championship, it's a total failure, in my opinion. And again, I hate saying that because that's kind of what it is at Ohio State at this point. But because we had years where we would beat Michigan and win the Rose Bowl, and people were upset and angry and depressed. Like I mean, that's one of the greatest fallacies and one of the greatest, I guess, pieces of stupidity that I've dealt with in the last 7 years is that in 2018, we have that insanely inexplicable loss to Purdue. But other than that, we run the table. We beat Michigan like 62 to 35. Then we win the Rose Bowl. And then I listen to people say, well, Urban Meyer lost his fastball. Urban Meyer didn't know what he was doing. Urban Meyer sucked. Thank God we got rid of that Meyer guy who's literally the 3rd highest winning percentage in the history of college football. And again, we had that one bizarre loss where it was like we're in the twilight zone where like Purdue, who sucks at everything every single year, beat us, which again, I'll never be able to explain that game for the rest of my life. But we ran the table this way, and we put 62 on a Michigan team that was favored against us going into that game, who had the number 1 defense in the country, I believe. I think they're number 2 overall as a team, number 1 defense, and how are we ever going to move the ball? And again, we hung 62 points on them. So, I don't know. Like I think it's a deal where I enjoy every season, even if it's a season where we don't get the ultimate goal. But I think this is the team that they got it. This is like the 15 team. This is like the 2005 team, where I think we're clearly the best team. There's going to be a challenger out there, which will probably be Georgia, because Georgia's got a superstar quarterback that we have to deal with. But otherwise, I mean, this is about as good as it's going to get for Ohio State going forward between the schedule, the roster talent, the coaching staff. So I really think Ryan has to cash it in. And again, I don't like to say that because I know I sound like I'm crazy man talking that you got to win a title. But, there's certain years in sports where certain teams go all in and they circumvent the salary cap or they trade their first round picks to get assets, at the deadline to try to win the Stanley Cup or win the NBA championship or whatever. And I think this feels like a year like that for Ryan Day. And again, will we be great next year? Absolutely. Will we be a top 5 team next year after all these guys leave? Absolutely. But this is a year where I think we're clearly the most talented team in the country. I couldn't imagine a coach saying, I would take Georgia's players or Clemson's or Oregon's players over the guys we have. But like we gotta go get that win. Nevada, what are your thoughts on that? Because again, I know that people get obsessed with this win it all or it's a failure culture, but I mean, Jim Trussell and who isn't the kind of guy to kind of throw the heater at Ryan, and then Urban Meyer, who kind of might be. They both said this is the most talented team they've ever seen at Ohio State. Those are two guys that won national titles at Ohio State in the last 20, 23-ish type years. But what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I just think it's just a matter of perspective. I think I think younger people like yourself think it's kind of not funny, but have a little bit of a different perspective regarding these seasons. As I've gotten a little bit older, I realize that great seasons don't come along very often. That you've got your time, you've got to kind of do your thing, and for Ohio State, not every season. I don't have an infinite number of seasons to watch, and so for me, it's about these special moments, and I think Ohio State's look. They've got it all. I am never national. I've laughed at the national championship or bust people because national championships come so infrequently. I've only seen 3 in my lifetime. I saw 68, 70, 71, or 70, whatever. It didn't happen 2002 and 2014. But I think as you get older, you realize that you're not going to have an infinite number of bites at the apple, and so I just I do get a little melancholy when I think about guys leaving for the draft or what the team's going to look like in 2025 or 2026 or whatever it is, because I want to stay in the moment. I want to stay in the present. I want to enjoy every snap of these ones because I don't get enough Ohio State football. The seasons are way too short. The off seasons are way too long, and the fact that we're only 8 Saturdays away from playing college football makes me insanely happy. So yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready for some football this year, and like I said, I'm not going to turn off any game. I'm going to watch every minute from the beginning to the last play of the fourth quarter, and savor every minute of this 2024 Buckeye team.
You're gonna wait for Brady Taylor to slap that ball over that kid's head again to lose the over. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, that was brutal. I'll never forgive him for doing that. That was so bad. That's one of the worst beats I've ever had. Brady Taylor,
dude. I mean,
just snap the ball, Brady. Just snap the ball.
Well, what's funny is our good friend Arnold, who's back and was in Europe and was touring Europe, and he was talking about how he was in Europe, living the dream, having a good time, and he was watching the Hungary-Scotland soccer game, which your boy bet. I bet on, and he's like, man, the Scottish people were so happy that they ended up, they're in extra time and whatever, and then Hungary scored with with 20 seconds left in the 10th minute. I was like, oh, ripped my heart out a little bit because that took a little bit of that sent Kirky Jr. to community college for at least the first year, so I can get that one back. But I was just laughing because that was one of those unintended consequences where he's telling a funny story about traveling. I was like, did you enjoy the Europa? And he's like, oh yeah. And I was like, well, I enjoyed some of the games. I didn't enjoy. There's a couple of them that really weren't really that fun for me, but I absolutely loved it. Cade Weston, thanks for the deuce. Thank you for being an Ultra member as well. They're explicitly not supposed to rhyme, unfortunately, Nevada. Again, Nevada, if you're trying to write a rhyming tattoo, the samurai Shogun master would probably come and slice your head off and put it on a spike pretty quick.
No, but this is why I don't like haikus, because they don't rhyme. I mean, like, they just frustrate me. They're like, okay, I'm waiting for the rhyming part, and they don't ever rhyme. And I've decided that I officially do not like haikus. I just don't like them.
Does it take more talent to rhyme or not rhyme on a poem?
I don't know. I
Probably
mean,
not rhyme.
I, I don't know. I mean, to not rhyme, it just seems like you're not even trying. You're like bird falling, seed nest here, mom, come quickly, baby. Yeah, I mean, it's like, what the heck it's so stupid. Haikus are stupid. I'm sorry. If there's any English teachers out there, if there's any Japanese poem people, I'm sorry, but I do not like haikus. Give me something that rhymes. I like rhyme, and you can set like a little, backbeat to it, and you've got a song. It's like Taylor
Yeah.
Swift. Taylor Swift she would never sing in haiku. I can tell you that.
No, because
Like we are
it's got to be
never,
something.
ever,
It's got to be
ever,
something that makes
ever
sense.
getting getting back together ever, like ever.
Yeah.
See, that is not a haiku. But that was
Yeah.
brilliant, Taylor. Thank you, Tay Tay.
Well, I totally agree. Like I think that like if you don't have to open up the thesaurus to get some good words going in your little flow, then I mean, what are we doing? What are we really talking about? All right, Nevada, here we go. We got another haiku. This is a trend now. Also, this is going to be scary because this is what we're going to get going for in our super chats. But he did put little division signs. I'm going to say division signs because it looks like I'm reading an Excel spreadsheet right now. Ranjit, sorry, thank you for the 5. Great defense, great O. So great defense, great O. There's 5. Buckeyes will put on a show. Buckeyes. Okay, so we're 7. Go OH. And then Nevada finishes the haiku by saying, this is impressive, dude. I'm telling you. Because go OH, that's 3.
No, see,
So,
I-O. Now,
this is strong.
See,
strong.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
a good one. And like I said, it's a rhyming haiku, which I know probably violates some sort of rules, but like this is the kind of haiku that I can get behind. So I know I like that one. So let's do the whole thing, and you say it out, and I'll shout out the
And
I-O.
I'll say
finish
OH, and then you have to say IO, just like we do on every other super
Okay.
chat. We'll actually do it. Okay. All right, you ready? All right,
Exactly.
Ranjit, sorry, thank you for the 5. Great defense, great O. Buckeyes will put on a show. Go OH.
I-O. See, that's a great
Dude,
one.
I mean that's perfect. Like when you say that 3 times in a row, then like Bloody Mary shows up, like a Shogun Lord shows up behind you with a samurai sword and just
Candyman.
Yeah, exactly. Candyman. Exactly. Candyman shows up, except the Shogun version of it. So that's perfect.
That's good.
Nevada, Quinshon Judkins get a lot of first round hype. How good of an addition is he going to be to this offense? Because, I mean, I think that he's going to be a guy that I don't think people realize how good that guy is. But, I mean, they had him as the first running back. They had him as the only first round running back, Quinshon. And he's a freaky good dude. And I just think that a lot of people don't realize how good that guy was because, he played in the SEC, but he played Ole Miss, which isn't the same as playing at Bama. And, Ole Miss gets a lot of national games, but it's not the same as being at Bama or Florida or, more of the Auburn, Georgia. Like, those are the teams I feel like they get more national love than Ole Miss does. Ole Miss, I always feel like it's kind of like a quirky, like kind of fun, cute little team because they're so good on offense. And Lane Kiffin acts like I think Lane Kiffin is a genius, but he's goofy and he's funny and he's come to the SIP. So I don't think people all realize how good Quinshon Judkins is, but what's he going to do this offense this year?
Well, the first thing I just want to remind people, you're talking about a 3-star running back out of Alabama, which is, again, not that stars don't matter and not that things, but it's just, you never know because it's not like this kid played somewhere that people didn't say when he played football in Alabama and they still thought he was a 3-star. And now he's possibly a first-round draft pick 3 years later. I mean, so no, look, he's amazing. He has absolutely been a jolt of adrenaline to the Ohio State offense, to a Chip Kelly offense that's so run centric and he wants to do interesting things with 2 back sets, with running the quarterback, with giving a variety of looks. Having 2 guys like Trey and Quinshon is absolutely his beyond his wildest dreams, and so no, it's such a pleasure, such a treat, and a thing, just another dimension that you need to win in this expanded playoff. And look, there's a great article today about how helmet communications are completely revolutionizing the game. Um, we've talked about that, but I don't think people are really understanding how radical it's going to completely transform the way offense runs. I think offense will be um, markedly improved, and people will be like, "Wow, how did offenses get better?" Um, it's because of helmet communications. Helmet communications that a veteran, if you have a dynamic offensive coordinator and a veteran quarterback, helmet communications is going to change everything. And then when you add elite playmakers like Quinshawn, Trey Henderson, J.J. Smith, Emeka Buka, Cornell Tate, I mean, it's going to be silly. It's going to be video game type of numbers. So I think there's changes that are abounding. Having toys like Quinshawn in the backfield for a guy like Chip Kelly to play with are crazy. You throw in helmet communications on top of that, and I mean, wow. I mean, it's pretty crazy to think about the kind of numbers Ohio State's going to put up in 2024 offensively, and the type of defensive effort that we're going to put up in 2024. It's really kind of the dream season.
Yeah, I mean, when you combine that with the defense, yeah, and I think that Ryan, Ryan was kind of in a tough situation where he had to hire some guys that to pay some favors back, and now he's got it's interesting when people talk about is Ryan Day. Are we going to be okay with Ryan Day not coaching quarterbacks? So Chip Kelly running the show, and I'm like, well, Chip coached Ryan when he's a quarterback, and then Ryan worked for Chip when he was the quarterbacks coach at New Hampshire, and he worked for him at Philadelphia and San Francisco and everywhere else. So it's like that's the biggest advantage to me with Bill O'Brien versus Ryan Day. Because I know that there are some people that aren't as sharp as they need to be that think that Bill O'Brien might have been a better hire than Chip Kelly. And I'm like, well, even if everything was equal, even if they were both savants and quarterback gurus and they both coached, Tom Brady or whatever, like at the end of the day, if you put a gun to Ryan's head and say, okay, who do you really want to be the coordinator? It's going to be the guy that he trusts implicitly. Because again, there's been times where, Urban Meyer, who you guys know, I love Coach Meyer and I love Shelley Meyer and I love, the whole Meyer clan. He always talked about, Scott Loeffler. Scott Loeffler is a guy who's the head coach of Bowling Green now, good player, played at Michigan, coached at Michigan, under Lloyd Carr, was from Alliance, Ohio, a guy that recruited the crap out of me when I was in Stark County. He's a Stark County guy, a guy that I really liked. And he, when Urban lost Dan Mullen to Mississippi State, he had to hire a quarterbacks coach in 2009, and he hired Scott Loeffler. Scott Loeffler was out of work because Lloyd Carr had had gotten resigned, and Rich Rod came in. Obviously, Scott Loeffler is a pro style guy, is going to work with Rich Rod, and Rich Rod didn't retain him anyways. So, Urban hired him in 2009 as a way to kind of help Tim Tebow develop into a pro guy. And so, Scott Loeffler shows up, and he'd coached Chad Henne, who was a guy that just retired like 2 years ago, and 15-year guy in the NFL and really good player, good dude. I was with him with the Miami Dolphins, and again, a guy that drop back passer, classic thing that Urban I think wanted to make Tebow a little bit more like Henne. Henne was a second round pick and had a nice career. Like I said, it lasted 15 years and didn't get a ton of tread taken off the tires because he didn't play a lot, but he still lasted 15 years. But he goes down to Florida, and his philosophy was not what Urban wanted, and he was coaching the quarterbacks like Tim Tebow to do stuff that wasn't in Urban's vocabulary, vernacular. It wasn't in Urban's belief system. So, when there was a time walking off the field, and I'm sure, if I had Zach on here, cause he was in the same meeting I was, but he was actually on the field when this happened. And, Tim Tebow goes to Urban and says, hey, I know that we're supposed to like move the movement key, which is a big thing with Urban moving the safeties. He always talked about in his passing offense, but what about, and he said like some Scott Loeffler Michigan vernacular. What about this and that and this and whatever? And Urban, like he heard this stuff and like his head like about exploded because he realized that Scott Loeffler was kind of in the program not infiltrating. I mean, he wasn't like trying to do a takeover, but he was teaching what he knew and what he believed, as opposed to what Urban and Dan Mullen had believed. So, Urban, I swear to God, he told the story, and Zach, like, he's second in the story. That's why I love talking to Zach about some of these stories, is because Zach, Urban, who I love to death, could exaggerate a lot, and then Zach would say, "Oh no, absolutely." They got off the field at 5 or 6 on like a Thursday, and I'm telling you, like, normally on Thursday, guys, we go home after practice. Like, we don't usually grade the tape on Thursday night, so we can actually get home and see our families at a decent hour. And Urban kept them in a staff meeting instead of them getting out home by 6:30 or 7 or whatever. He kept them in a staff meeting until 2 a.m. to talk about alignment and to basically ring Scott Leffler cost all those coaches like a night with their families because it was he wasn't in alignment. And so the moral of the story is, I know it's a little long-winded, is that if Ryan Day brings in Bill O'Brien, it could go one of two ways. It could have been Ryan Day is like, "Wow, this is amazing what you do, Bill O'Brien. I love what you do with Tom Brady and Mac Jones and whoever." Or it could go bad, and Bill O'Brien could say, "Well, this is how I like to do it. This is how we want to do it." And Ryan could say, "Well, I don't believe in that, or I do like this, but I don't like that." But anytime you bring in a new coordinator, there's always that risk of there not being cohesion between, especially when the head coach is the quarterback's guru. If he's teaching stuff that you don't believe in, then Ryan has to go sit in the meetings and listen to it and make sure that they're saying the terms that he wants them to say. Because, if you're a coordinator or a quarterback's coach, you have to say, if your head coach is a quarterback's guru, you got to say what that guy wants. You can't do it vice versa and say, "Well, I'm going to coach it like this because this is what I believe." When Ryan's been ultra successful, really since, he came to Ohio State in 17, obviously 18 with Dwayne Haskins and then with Fields and CJ Stroud and whatever. So I think that Chip Kelly, again, sometimes you fall into the jackpot, but that's what Ryan did, where Bill O'Brien took off. Chip Kelly decided, "I don't want to be at UCLA anymore." I think it's the biggest hire in Ohio State history, and the fact that Ryan can actually leave that room and actually go be a head coach and not do 4 other people's jobs. Because again, last year Ryan would be sitting in that room and he'd have Todd Finch in there and he'd have Corey Dennis in there and he'd have an intern and a GA, and they'd have like 5 coaches in a room that had 5 players, which I think is insane. And now he doesn't have to do that. Now it's, "Hey, Chip, you taught me everything I know, so I trust you implicitly. You're not going to teach stuff that I don't believe in." So I think that that's just huge for Ryan in his development as a coach. Now he doesn't have to, worry about, "Hey, are they teaching it the way I want it?" When, Chip's the guy that taught Ryan how to do it. So, it's like Luke Skywalker hiring Yoda, to teach someone how to be a Jedi. Like it's super, super streamlined, in my opinion. Nevada, what are your thoughts on that? We got a couple more super chats.
Well, look, I mean, staff alignment's everything. Yeah, it's an underrated point, and I think it's the Ryan Day, Chip Kelly alignment is something. The Matt Guerrieri, Jim Knowles thing is another thing. So I think you're talking about a staff right now for Ohio State that's operating in much better alignment than they ever have before, with a head coach that's now moved from play caller and kind of frazzled guy to CEO and kind of overseer, person that can kind of take a CEO 10,000-foot view. So no, underrated point for sure. But I think staff alignment's important, and I think Ohio State has it this year.
Yeah, I think it's something that nobody thinks about because we live in like the Madden and NCAA dynasty mode generation where it's like, you can swap out coaches, swap out coordinators, and it doesn't make a big difference. But I think that, when you have a coordinator that's, I don't want to say actively working against you, but he doesn't totally buy into what you're selling, it can end very poorly. And again, you see a lot of, Urban had misses as coordinators, and a lot of these coaches, they don't always nail the coordinator hires. So, Urban had Tim Beck, and he promoted Ed Warner to OC, which again, when Ed got promoted, again, I was fine with Ed, but when you've got to be the line coach and the offensive play caller, like there's just no way you can do both. I think it's impossible to be really good at it. That's why you don't see offensive line coaches calling plays very often, because it's like, it's the 2 hardest jobs in the field: calling plays on offense and running the offensive line. So to give it to one guy is just absolutely miserable. And it didn't pan out well. And I said, he needs to go up in the box and he needs to talk, and he has to have a guy down on the field that he trusts. And eventually, when they played Michigan and they beat him like a drum in 15, like they finally put him up in the box, because I watched that offense suck all year. There was no reason that they should have sucked the way they did. And they got better as the year went on, and then they beat Notre Dame, and everybody felt good about the season, but they didn't feel that good because that was the one that you needed to cash in to win the title. Nevada, we got another haiku, which I know that you love as much as anybody in the world. Coconut Dreams, thank you, my friend, for being on here every night. Coconut Dreams 123, thanks for being an ultra member, and thank you for the 5. All right, Nevada, let's count the syllables. O State, Natty Year. Scarlet and Gray, Don the Crown. How Firm the Glory. So, yeah, Glory, I guess that's 5. O State, Natty Year, 5. So, I mean, this is going to be fun doing this. Your thoughts on this one, Nevada? Thumbs up, thumbs down?
Well, I'm thinking, could you have done How Firm Thy Friendship or something like that? So you kind of tie into the whole thing, and friendship is like 2 instead of glory. So I think there was a golden opportunity.
Maybe?
Yeah, because I mean, you've got How Firm Thy Friendship, Ohio. I mean, you got the whole thing. I mean, I think that you had a golden opportunity to work kind of the alma mater into the thing, and I think we missed it. So I'm giving this one a B minus because of the missed opportunity to gravy train off the alma mater.
Do you say for the alma mater at the end of the game or no?
Well, yeah, because I wait for the traffic to clear out. So, and also I wait for other people to leave their suites. So I send my kids in there to eat the cookies and desserts and stuff that they leave behind and stuff like that. So
that you want to talk about veteran move. I'm talking like you want to talk about like, hey kids, we're not going to eat until after the game because all these corporate suites are going to clear out and there's going to be cookies and carving boards. And
when my kids were little, they would run into the things and they'd come back with like handfuls of cookies and stuff like that. And they thought they were like the smartest kids in the world. They would literally raid the other suites for their leftover cookies and stuff like that. And hey, kids do the hardest things.
They're like the little panhandlers that have the little pet monkey on the leash, and then they come back with the guy's wallet. And they say, "Daddy, look what we got. Daddy, you didn't have to pay the tab today because we went to Key Bank and White Castle and we ate all their food. It was great, And you're like, Daddy, you know what tastes better than the food that you have to pay all that money for? Free food. It tastes way better, Daddy. Thank you."
50 old cookies from these old sweets, man. Yeah. And they'd wrap it like a napkin, and then they bring it back to the hotel, and they'd be eating them all night. Yeah, it was awesome. Good times, man.
They put it in the carry-on and put it through the X-ray scanner flying home. It was like, oh, great, we got a bunch of soiled cookies in our book bag on the way home.
They did that after the 2005 Texas game. They were like, Daddy, why didn't Kirk Barton block better and we would have won the game and we'd been happy? And I'm like, I don't know, kids, just go get cookies from those other sweets and stuff like that. And that's what we did. So it was sad.
Daddy, why didn't Nate Sally knock that pass down? and I love Nate Sally, but that's like the funny thing is like when people talk to me about Nate, and Nate is one of the greatest teammates I ever had, but they're just like, why didn't Nate knock that pass down, Daddy? Can I take more cookies home now? Because we're sad. Sure, kiddos. You guys have fun. Why did Lima Sweet have to catch that ball at the end? We could have gone home happy.
Daddy, Lima Sweet he was out of bounds, Daddy. Yeah, he was. Lima Sweet was out of bounds. We need to put that on a t-shirt. Lima Sweet was out of bounds.
Oh my God! I mean, we could do it probably next year because I'll do the 20th anniversary celebration of them winning the Natty when we should have probably won it.
Oh, yeah, that sucks.
It does. It really does suck. D Sonny, my man, I missed you on Saturday. I was ready to kick it with you, and we need you back. Nevada, here we go. Thanks for the 5. Speaking of injuries, was there any more to the story of Jamal Dean? He didn't pass the physical at Ohio State, then had a great career at Auburn. Nevada, your thoughts on Jamal Dean? Because that was a weird one. Because he's made a ton of money in the NFL. But your thoughts?
Well, every time I see him, every time I see him on TV or anything else like that, I think of that story. I mean, look, Ohio State, they'd gotten a bad medical report on him. That is one of the absolute weirdest ones for people that don't remember that story. And I don't remember all of it, but it was basically, it was a kid that had committed to Ohio State, and then Ohio State was like, hey, this kid can't pass the physical. He's not going to be able to play here. And they were offering him like a medical red shirt or a medical, scholarship. And he's like, no, I don't want that. I want to go somewhere else and play. And now he's gone off and not only played, but starred and gone on. that was the weirdest story that I've ever heard. So I honestly do not know. I was always under the impression that Ohio State had just, kind of soured on him and wasn't sure he was going to be able to come back from injury. So this was kind of their way of getting around it. But I'd love to have more like real information. I do not have real information about that situation, but that one was one for the books, and absolutely bizarre story.
Well, I've got the whole story of that one, so I can enlighten you guys.
Oh,
So
all right.
that was actually a
there we
guy who again, let me take a swig because this is gonna be a long-winded Kirk here. But that being said, I know this was a guy. I'm gonna put deodorant on too, just so I smell good while I'm talking. So anyways, this was a guy who, when this went down under Urban, I was like, okay, they're processing the guy. Whatever reason, his nose hairs were too long, or he said that the ice cream was too cold. They don't want him no more. And again, that's fine. It happens. It's like a bad marriage, ending in divorce. It doesn't surprise. I mean, Urban was, a guy that he was really with it when it came to roster processing. And so I asked an impeccable source in this entire situation about Jamal Dean, specifically on signing day. I said, did we really just cut a guy? Like, is this where we're at now? Are we really Bama and Mississippi State and Mississippi and the schools that did that? And what I was told, and this is from an impeccable source, is that, his knees, and again, you're going to laugh at me because I'm sure that, after he, went to the Pro Bowl this year and signed a $50 million extension, he's probably running an Ironman or something. He's running an Ironman, or he's running a super Ironman. He's running like 100 miles across, the African desert or something in the off season. And, I'll show you who doesn't have knee cartilage. But I was told that like, he's not going to make it through, the grind of like a college football season. Like, he could go maybe to like a small school, a D3 school, where they could put him on an Airdyne bike and get him ready like that. But his knees were, his one knee was so bad that there's no way he's going to make it. So again, was that an impossibly bad diagnosis? Yes. Obviously, he's turned into a Pro Bowler. He's won a Super Bowl with the Buccaneers and second overall pick. And what just an impossibly stupid evaluation. But that was the truth. Like, this wasn't Urban just saying, hey, we want to get rid of this guy. That's what they were told. And again, this isn't me defending Urban or sticking up for Urban or carrying on some lie. Because again, the thing about us is like, when we talk to you guys, like, we're honest. And again, the rest of the media that covers Ohio State is patently dishonest because again, they have to put out whatever message Ohio State wants to put out. And that's not us. Like, we don't need Ohio State for anything. So that gives us the advantage to actually be honest with you and tell you what really happened. And that's what really happened. This kid was deemed like, hey, he's not going to last. Now, again, we can make light of it, but Ohio State and Urban, they still offered him like a free 4 or 5 year scholarship at Ohio State just not to play football. Where again, if that's me, if I didn't have desires to play in the National Football League and they said, hey, you can go to school for 4 years, full boat, full ride, you go be a regular student and we're going to pay $200,000 for education. That's room, board, scholarship checks, all of the perks of being a football player. So you never have to play football. I'd be like, well, that's amazing. Obviously, everyone wants to go play in the league, but there's a lot of kids that don't make it to the league that have to practice and go through all the hard workouts and all that stuff. But to just go be a football player, I think would be great. So, it wasn't like they just said, hey, sorry, you have to go, live in the homeless shelter. It's like, no, they're like, hey, we're going to offer you this, but we don't think you're going to make because of your knee. Now, obviously, he didn't do that. And he went to Auburn and became a second round pick and ran a 4.3 or whatever. And we looked like morons, but that was a real story. And again, that's not water carrying. That's not state media, like the rest of the outlets that we go against. That's really what happened. And I was just like, okay. I mean, because again, when I heard that, I was like, oh God, Urban's cutting these guys already. And because the dad went crazy and it really looked bad. I mean, from an optics standpoint, that's the kind of thing that just looks terrible on social media. The kid gets to signing day. He's all excited to sign his letter of intent. And then, we pull it out from under him and, hey, sorry, buddy, no letter of intent for you because your knee's bad. I'm like, okay. All right, so we had to cut somebody. So it looked like it was that kid, but it's not what happened. So that's the truth. And again, that's not something where, and again, I love Urban Meyer, but this isn't protecting Urban at all. This is just what really happened. So just my opinion. Nevada, any additional thoughts on that? Because that was as crazy as I've ever seen. Honestly, as long as I've been around recruiting for 30 years, that's the craziest thing I've ever seen because I was just like, okay, so this guy can't walk and he's going to be in a, if he comes to Ohio State, he's going to be in a rascal scooter on game days, but he goes to Auburn and turns into Pro Bowl $60 million extension guy. What are your thoughts on that? Because again, that was wild.
Yeah, I'd never heard that story. But I'd been told that that's what they thought. They thought they literally couldn't play. But I'd like to know who the doctor was that made that diagnosis because,
Not
look,
giving him
I
up.
understand that medical is not a perfect science, but man, what a bad miss. I mean, that's a bad miss. And that's something, too, that you miss on something like that. And that, I'm not saying that's a program changer, but that hurt Ohio State. So that was not a harmless miss right there. That was a really, really bad miss. And whoever did that, I would hope they're not doing that for Ohio State anymore because they're clearly not great at their job.
Well, I mean, like for me, the thing that does is it gives like, again, we talk about civilization on Civ 6 on the computer. It'd be like giving your opponent a nuclear bomb, because all of a sudden you're like, well, did you see what Urban Meyer just did to that kid? Are you sure you want to commit to him? Like, I mean, he just cut a kid on signing day. Like, I mean, said he had a bad knee.
Yeah, it's bad. It's bad.
I mean, that's like don't turn accepting a kid's commitment into pulling the rug out from under him like the week before. I don't know if it was the day of signing day or the week of signing day, but it was pretty close to signing day. It wasn't like
it was late. It was late.
Yeah, I mean, it was like, hey, the kid's already bought the hooded sweatshirt to wear to the signing day press conference and signed the letter, and they said, hey, by the way, you can't play, bad knee, whatever. So it's I don't know. It was bad, but it was legit. And again, like, this isn't, I love Urban, but this wasn't, him, hey, doctor, go say that this kid has a bad knee so we can cut him. This was literally the doctor saying, no, he's got a bad knee. And I'm not going to out my guy, but it was not good. McLaren, 1, 2, 3, 1,000. Thanks for being ultra. Thanks for the 20, my friend. Haiku. People are loving these haikus. We might have to do a haiku on one of our shirts because I think that'd be hilarious. Kirk in Nevada, best ever show on YouTube. Keep up the great work. Appreciate you, man. That's perfect. 575. We're rocking. Nevada's not a fan of the haikus. I love the haikus because, again, I use Japan on Civilization. So shout out to the samurais. Let's ride. Nevada, your thoughts. Again, McLaren at 1, 2, 3, 1,000. Thanks for the 20. He said, haiku, Kirk in Nevada, best ever show on YouTube. Keep up the great work. What are your thoughts?
That was so kind. Thank you. Now I like haikus again, so I'm back to liking them. But that was a really nice. That's an incredible nice compliment. We do try hard, but hearing from people that they like what we're doing makes it all worthwhile, and we really appreciate it.
Yeah, and again, we go every night. So for better or worse, in sickness and in post happy hour, we do go every night. So we appreciate you guys tuning in every night and enjoying our show. ZZM, what is up, brother? I missed you on Saturday. I wish you would have been there. I missed seeing your happy face. Thank you for the 5 day for the ultra worship. Scoop in the north. Again, I love ZZM because he's a big Game of Thrones fan. So he throws like King in the north, like Scoop in the north. Michigan Walkers will fall, which is like the White Walkers. The Iron Trophy is ours, like the Iron Throne. I love that, ZZM, because I love Game of Thrones. I think that the current show that they're doing right now absolutely sucks. And again, I could be persuaded to be wrong, and Kirk, you're just not real smart, and you know what's going on, but this Dragons thing is like terrible, because I honestly don't think there's a single good character in the entire show. And I wish there was, because again, I love the greatest people in all of Game of Thrones are Tywin Lannister is number 1 for me by far. The Hound.
He's dead. He's dead.
Well, they're both dead. All the good people died. I mean, like Ned Stark died. Robb Stark died.
Dead.
You know who else? You know who my number 3 was? Who should probably be the number 1 is Lady Tyrell, Olenna Tyrell. She was
dead.
The goat. She's dead as well. She drank poison, and she said, "Tell Cersei, I want her to know that it was me."
Okay. What character did she play in a previous life?
I don't know. I mean, she's 100 years old. She's like the Crypt Keeper or something. I don't
know. No, she was. That's Diana Rigg. She was hot. She was like in 1920. Dude, she was smoking. I think it was like the Avengers or whatever the show was. She was like the sidekick, and she was a smoke show back in the day.
The Avengers, like the
It's
End
called
Game.
no, 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 no. This is like way back. This is like a '60s television show.
I mean, I'll take your word for it. The '60s or like the 1860s or the 1960s.
Dude, she was a smoke show. I'm telling.
Olenia Tyrell, who's 100 years old, is a smoke show.
In her prime, she was a smoke show. I'm telling you, go check it out. Google it up. Check the Google machine.
I mean, I believe you. I mean, you were alive way before I was, so you probably know. I don't know. I mean, if you say she's a smoke show, I thought she was the funniest. She was like unbelievably funny, like the same way that Tony Soprano's mom was hilarious. You know, like she's like just a great delivery, dry, and she shredded Tywin and she shredded everybody. I mean, her lines were like the best written things in the world, other than the Hound. The Hound was great, but most of the stuff that he said I couldn't say on the show just because he was pretty graphic. But he was my favorite all time character.
No, no, no. She literally played the wife of James Bond in on Her Majesty's Secret Service. So imagine she was the wife of James Bond. So imagine how smoking you have to be
he
cast as the wife of James Bond.
James Bond had a wife. Really?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Facts.
He had a wife? I never knew he was married.
Yeah, yeah.
Did
But
she
she
die?
died.
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
gonna say she had to
yeah,
have died because like I mean, he's been like Mr. Bachelor dude in every one. I mean, like
yeah.
the one thing I know is like if you're getting cast as James Bond's wife, you're gonna have like the shortest like series lifespan of ever. I mean, you're gonna die in the first movie. You're like, hey,
No,
we want you to be Inspector, and you're gonna be James Bond's wife. Okay, that means I'm gonna die in like the first hour. You know, like
no,
the
no,
chick
no.
that she got caught in the elevator in the water, and I was like, oh my
Yeah,
god,
no, 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 no. Yeah, she was on that TV series, The Avengers, from '65 to '68.
I
And
love that.
that was a big show. And actually, no, she was smoking. Diana Rigg was smoking.
I mean, that's bold, but I mean, I believe you. Like I said, I mean, she was. I mean, Elenia Tyrell, she looks like she's 105 years old. So, but again, she's the funniest character in the story outside of the Hound and Tywin. So, again, I
Dead.
miss old Game of Thrones because it's. I think it's The Sopranos is number one. Nothing can touch The Sopranos in terms of how well written it is. But Thrones had so many like hilarious, quotable moments, and it's just like this new one just sucks. And I was like, I wish it was better. If they didn't have CGI dragons, I don't think it would even exist anymore. But that's just me. And again, hopefully it turns up a little bit, it gets a little bit better. But the characters just all suck in this. Yeah. So Nevada, I got a big question for you because I need you to help me out. So I have two cousins that are literally in Hilton Head right now. This is my cousin John Purdue, and this is my other cousin Jeff Purdue, and they're going to have a hot dog eating competition where I have staked a cash prize for the winner. So they're two brothers, and they're both my cousins. Here's John, and here's Jeff, and I literally Venmo them a cash prize to see who could eat more hot dogs. So John looks a little bit more robust here, so we'll make him a slight, like I'm probably about a 175 Dagestan Poppy favorite. Who do you have in the Great Hot Dog Derby, the Scoop Hot Dog World Championship that's going to take place tomorrow between Jeff Purdue and John Purdue? Because they're both eating hot dogs and there is cash on the line and it's enough to pay for a couple of really nice dinners. But I said, look, I'll stake this because I think this will be hilarious. Who you got, Nevada? Gambling guy.
Which is the second one's holding the cup? See, I think you got to. I think anybody who's holding the cup because you've got to dunk the hot dog buns
There
and
you
stuff
go.
in the water so you can stuff it in your mouth. So if he's
Yep.
actually practicing there with a cup in his hand, then I'm betting him because that is the secret to stuffing more volume in there is wetting it down, getting those things soggy because if you eat those buns dry, they just clog up your stomach and you can't get them in. So.
Have you studied like Joey Chestnut and how he dunks the buns and smashes them and
No, no, but I've
pulverizes
watched
them and
all those shows on the eaters like the science
Kobayashi
behind
and
the
those
eaters.
guys? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I've read. I still don't understand it, but I do see the technique and yeah, technique's everything in that obviously, and I think the fact that he's holding a cup there indicates to me that he's got a good solid hot dog eating technique. And just be hungry too. Don't have breakfast or something. Don't be stupid. Like, make sure you're hungry before you go into this.
Do you think overall belly size and circumference matters? Like if you look like you have a
No,
bigger belly when we catch you
nope.
on the XL in this photo, does that make it? Do you think you have more room as opposed to having more of a an Austin Powers chest hair type build like Jeff does?
No, I think it's all technique, man. I
All
think
technique.
stomachs. That's why Kobayashi is like the
Yeah,
greatest
I
eater
was
of
gonna
all
say,
time.
like he's got like 5% body fat and he's like 75,000 calories in a sitting, and people are like, "Wow, he's so amazing." But okay, well
Yeah.
there we go. We got our. I'm gonna go honestly. I think I'm gonna go with Jeff. He's younger Purdue. He's hungry. He's a little bit of a mean streak in him, so I think he's gonna eat him more than John will. But yeah, I'm excited to see that. I'm gonna report that back in the comments. I want you guys to let me know which of the Purdue brothers are gonna win the hot dog eating contest tomorrow. Because again, I put cash. I was like, look, guys, if you guys are serious about this, I'll send cash, and I want to see a video of it, and I want to be able to diagnose it on my telestrator. And we're gonna make it into an event because when we make it an event, it's always hilarious, and that's what we did. So hopefully we'll get a good video of it, and we'll be able to judge it and there won't be any tomfoolery. I mean, hopefully one of them smashes the other one, and it won't be like he ate 3/4 of the 25th hot dog, and this guy only ate a quarter of the 20th hot dog. Hopefully there'll be separation. It'll be nice and easy. Got another super chat, Coconut Dreams. The Haiku thing is going to be our anything, Nevada, I think. Coconut Dreams 123. Thanks for being ultra. Thanks for the 10. There once was a Buckeye from Newport who made strawberry milkshakes a fine sport. Extra Oreo, please. And I'll bend at the knees. What? With whipped cream,
What
fair,
the
Nevada.
what the hell?
Bend at the
No,
knees.
what
What does
the
that mean?
hell?
Like you're gonna like? Are you gonna play defense in basketball? I haven't heard like bend your knees since I was playing defense in like 10th grade basketball. They said bend your knees, bend your knees. You know, like don't be stiff legged and move your feet. And I'm like, I'm not moving my feet. We're gonna play zone defense. I'm gonna be center. I'm gonna stand right in the middle of the lane and not move at all. So, um,
Ugh.
yeah, extra Oreos, please. Do you ever order extra Oreos in your? Does that overwhelm the strawberry, Nevada?
Well, that it overwhelms the straw. You know what I'm saying? The straw gets all clogged up and stuff like that.
Oh
So
God,
yeah,
that is
no.
not good.
Any good eater of the strawberry Oreo shake will know you can't put too many Oreos. You order that, you get the straw all clogged up, and you're pulling the straw out the whole time, and stuff's coming out the bottom. And no,
And then by the
there's
time
like
you get the straw cleared out, and all of a sudden it's melted, and you're just like, this is terrible.
yeah,
This is
no
awful.
extra Oreos.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you got to call like Roto Roober. You got to call Uber Eats and say, can you
Yeah,
bring
no.
one with less Oreos, please? And you throw that
Or
one
bigger
out in the
straw. You got to
wilderness.
get one of the
Yeah,
you got to get one of those boba
the
straws, like the big
boba.
old
That's what you need. I know. That's exactly what
yeah.
you need. You
That's
need the
a
boba straw. All right,
no.
Nevada. One last super chat. Jerry McStevens, thanks for the deuce. When does Sanders and Moore announce their picks? I have no idea, honestly. I mean, I think David Sanders is supposed to announce this month later before camp starts. More, I don't have a clue. Nevada, you can be a better man than I and know when these kids are announcing, but I don't follow it unless it's like right in front of my face and it's going to be like a day out or a week out. Do you have any clue? Because I don't. So if you don't, that's good.
Yeah, no, I think the plan for Sanders was end of July. DK, I don't think he's ever released when he was going to be announcing, so I don't think we know. So I've always just kind of assumed that they're going to drag it out as long as they can, um, in an effort to drive up their NIL things, and
Oh yeah.
probably a smart move.
I mean, there's no reason to commit early. I would commit. I would be like as late as possible, and I'd say keep banging the paddles like you're at the auction house. Like, hey, do I hear 500, 600, 700, 800? Like, we all get a car like Oprah. So that's where I'd be at with this. All right, Nevada. Let's wrap this thing. Any final thoughts?
We're on Justin Hill commitment eve. Hopefully, let's get some good news on that. Get that one down, and then continue to hear positive vibes for Ohio State on Pettijohn. So we'll bring that home a few days later, and the dream season continues. But Justin Hill tomorrow. Let's get that one done.
Nevada. Also, we have another, and I love when these things can be turned into bets, which we're not going to bet. But Jerry McStevens has a follow up for Deuce. He says, Also, do you think we lose any commits? Like that would be like minus. That's like, if is are France and Spain both going to score in the match on Friday or something? It's like probably. I mean, they're both ridiculously good on offense, so it's probably going to be like a minus 900 that they both get shut out. But do you think, or excuse me, a plus 900 they both get shut out? Nevada, do you think we lose any commits? I mean, I don't. I'll go first with this. Like I said, I don't think so, unless we get a bunch of dominoes. Your coaches leave, or seasons don't go as planned, and kids want to jump back in the boat, and we could upgrade some of the the commits that we have. But at this point, I don't really think so. But again, it only takes one for me to be a loser on that. And again, it's just like in soccer when you bet there won't be another goal, and then of course they switch a goal on a penalty kick 5 seconds later. Like sometimes it's better to say, well, if I'm looking at the odds that we won't lose any commits, like you can always lose one. And sometimes it's not even a loss if Ohio State, like with Mark Nave, a nice kid who didn't develop, and we asked him to look elsewhere, and he ended up at Kentucky. I don't know if that counts as a loss in your book, but what are your thoughts, Nevada?
Yeah, I think if the over/under is 0, I'd probably bet over. But if it was
Yeah.
2, I'd probably bet under. So
Yep.
and that's not on any information. I don't have any information that we're on any danger. And Ohio State's done a pretty good job of staying on
Yeah.
top of these kids. So I think this class is pretty tight. So I'm not that worried about decommits right now.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I'm just like, I mean, a lot of times when these kids leave late in the season, it's because we've upgraded. Like some other kid became interested because something crazy. Again, I'll always go back to like Dontre Wilson. Dontre Wilson, when we got him, it was like, oh my God, the second coming of Percy Harvin. We had no shot at getting him until Chip Kelly went to the NFL. He was committed to Oregon, signed, sealed, delivered. Had people on the take to get him to Oregon, so that was locked in. And then Chip Kelly goes to the league, and all of a sudden, he's like, well, I'm not going there, and he comes to Ohio State after we lost the recruitment. So usually, if you do that, you have to bump a kid out of the class to get a kid that you think's a big upgrade. So I don't think we lose any, but if we do, it's always to Ohio State's benefit, in my opinion. I mean, at least in recent history, when we lose a kid who's been committed, it's because we want someone else. And if a kid wants to look around and he wants to leave, like that's fine, we'll survive. It's better that I think it's better that they do it before signing day, where we have a chance to replace him, as opposed to doing it after signing day, and then you got to go look in the portal and go find out, okay, this kid's in the portal and what warts does he have and whatever. So I think the kids actually do you a favor when they transfer before they get here, because then you're not wasting time developing a kid that doesn't really want to be here anyways. All right, Nevada, for all this time, final thoughts, and we'll wrap the show up.
As Granny Nevada used to say, when God closes one door, he opens another. So if somebody leaves, it'll just be an opportunity for somebody else. Yeah, I'm not worried. I think the class is great, and it's about to get better tomorrow. Fingers crossed.
When God closes one door, go to the click bar. All right, let's wrap this thing up.
Yes.
You, all right, I appreciate you, my man. Thank you so much. Appreciate you guys being on here. As always, another huge show because you guys made it one. So thank you guys. I hope you guys have a great rest of your night. Appreciate you guys, as always, kicking it with us. If you guys enjoy this content, please leave us a like, click subscribe. Also, click that little alert bell. Those are huge for us. If you guys want to do us a huge, huge favor, follow us on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, on our audio show. Even if you don't like to listen to the audio versions, it helps if you just subscribe to it. Again, we appreciate you guys for doing that. Subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Those are all big deals for us, so we appreciate it. We're trying to grow all those different mediums. Find us on Twitter at Buckeye Scoop. Facebook, we have a Facebook group now. So love for all you guys to join this. Again, that doesn't cost any money, and it helps us out tremendously. So thank you. Again, another great show because you guys made it one. It's a huge deal on here because you guys. It's a pleasure to be here. Shout out to our first responders, our police officers, our military folks. We appreciate all that you do. Stand up for your country. Thank you for all that you guys do for this country, for keeping us safe and protected each and every night. We do not forget about you here on BuckeyeScoop.com. With that being said, thank you so much, Buckeye Nation, and thank you, Scoop family. We will talk to you guys tomorrow, 7 p.m. We'll be ready to rock. Go Bucks.